Hey guys, welcome back to the garage. Today's topic is buzz baits for the co-angler. I've made previous videos before on topwater fishing. I didn't get too in depth on it like I am on this video right here. This video, I'm going to show you how to set up a buzz bait and what buzz bait to throw in what condition. Also, at the end of the video, I've got two different rod setups I like to use for buzz baits. Stick around for those. But anyhow, we get into it. In my previous videos, I've talked about two different buzz baits. One being a crocodigator. It's a head hitting bait. It's got a bigger size blade on it. It's this bait here I love whenever you've got some wind or some chop on the water. I need this more heavier, aggressive bait during the windier times because it helps those fish recognize there's something on the surface. It's more aggressive. It's putting off more sound, clanking, and it draws them more to the surface during those times. Plus, they're a little more aggressive, when you have wind and all. This Wheeler buzz bait, I've got several of them here. It's a finesse buzz bait. I think it's a quarter, 5/16. It's got a smaller blade on it. It does not chop, but I like using this buzz bait during those times when you have just a little bit of breeze on the water. You don't have any waves or white capping or chop or anything. This is a more subtle approach. It has a real unique sound to it when it comes across the top of the surface. It's kind of a little chuckling, buzzing sound when it comes across. Anytime I throw this bait, I know I got a lot of guys that always turn around and ask me, "What kind of buzz bait is that?" And I've had a lot of great success with it because a lot of guys want to use the bigger baits, the more aggressive baits in those conditions. And this bait right here, it just seems like this is exactly what they're wanting at that particular time. But I'm going to show you how I set these baits up. And I'm going to also tell you when to throw them and when to put them down. All right, I've got to re-rig this crocodigator. So I went ahead and I use a Z-Crawl and a Z-Crawl Junior. On my half-ounce baits that are bigger and more aggressive, I am using a full size. It's the Z-Hog. This color here is called Black Flash. It's got a little silver in it and all. This time of year, they're more shad oriented. They're looking for something that's got a little more flash in it and all. I do like using a plastic on my buzzbait over a skirt, and let me tell you the reasons why. If you were swimming in a pool and there's a leaf that's always laying on the bottom of the pool, and us as kids, when we go out there and get in the pool and you go down, you try to grab the leaf. When you grab it, it blows it away. It's almost impossible to catch a leaf underneath the water. And that leaf is representing the skirt on a buzz bait. All it is just silicone fibers. They blow at it, like when they come in and they suck at it, they don't have anything that allows them to suck it back in their mouth. There's no tension there to say. Now, with this bigger plastic, if you were to take this and throw it on the bottom and it goes down the bottom of the pool and you go down to grab it, you're more than apt to grab something like this over a leaf or a skirt to say. So just keep that in mind. And I just know that since I went to plastics over skirts, I have my hookup ratio is just 90% better to say. I still do miss fish, but very often do I. That's the reason I do like to use the plastics. Now on buzzbait fishing, I always run a trailer hook. I run a 2-aught trailer hook. And 90% of the time I do run it because I'm usually fishing, say, flats, or I'm just going down a bare bank this time of year. We're in search mode. Now, if I get back in a creek where I'm fishing a ton of laydowns, I'll take that hook off and then I'll just run a bare hook. Back on this Z-Crawl. Okay, what I'm going to show you here. I don't like these flappers being back here in the back. I want nothing behind my bait giving any action. I don't want them focused in on the rear end of the bait. I want them honed in up here on what this blade's doing. It's making enough commotion right here that it gets their attention. Is that when they come underneath it, they see the bait here. And I'll show you what I do. I just go along here halfway down through the bottom of the tail. I clip it off. Now, if you turn this sideways and look at it, that's the shape of a fish, okay? But the reason I leave this much on the back is because it allows my trailer hook to set up there. It's a kind of a guide. Plus, I like this flatter surface on the bottom, which helps get that bait up lots quicker than if, you know, just to say if it was a round bait or just a skirt, where there's nothing helping the bait get up on plane to say. Okay, when I use this number 2 trailer hook on the back here, I always use, when I put it on, I always use earring backings. You can get them on Amazon. They're like $3 for 200. It's more than what you'll ever need in a lifetime. I put that on like such. And there it is. That's the perfect setup for buzzbait. Other guys will argue the different, but I'm just telling you right now, this is what I've done to be more successful buzzbait fishing. Okay, when it comes to trailer hooks, I like that free swinging hook back there. I've got these Gamakatsu hooks. They come with a little plastic keeper on top, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. I do not use these baits right here. They stick straight like that right there. More times than none, they're running like this, and I know the water will have a tendency to push them back, but not always. Or you'll get the bait in and the hook is up like that right there. When a fish swats at it, obviously he's not going to get the trailer. It's just in the way right there. I absolutely do not use this little red keeper on the end. Take it off, and say for instance you don't have any earring backings, take the red plastic keeper that came on it and just stick it, you know, stick the hook on there without it, and this hook is sharp. Stick it on like such, something to hold your bait on there. So that, keep your red keepers just in case an emergency and all. Okay, when I put the buzz bait down, this time of year, and I'm gonna sound crazy, like I told you in the other video, I will sound crazy like this. I do not have the science behind why this is, but when I'm throwing a buzz bait, and I got that buzz bait coming straight back at me, I want bubbles. If I should have a bubble trail, or, you know, if it ain't a consistent bubble trail, there will be some bubbles it's leaving on top of the water. You'll see them. If you're seeing that, that is prime condition for buzz baits. And I don't know why it is, but if I don't have the bubbles, I just don't seem to ever get bit. I was pre-fishing on the Red River one time during the FLW or Forest Wood Cup event, and the pro that I was fishing with was well known for topwater fishing, and he told me one day, they tell you what to throw behind them because they're trying to eliminate water, and he told me, hey, pick up this topwater bait, throw it, and he said whenever you quit getting bubbles, put it down. I thought that's kind of strange. But I kept doing that, and I noticed every time I was getting bubbles, I was getting bit. But if I'd go to the areas where there was no bubbles, it seemed like dead water to say. It just seemed like there was something in the water that just wasn't right enough for a topwater bait. Anyhow, several years after that particular tournament, I was on another lake, and I noticed that we would go down a cove, and I didn't have any bubbles, but I refused to put the bait down because I'd done so well during practice on it. But anyhow, we'd go down one side of the cove. I wouldn't have bubbles. I wouldn't even get any blow-ups. But we'd come up the other side of the cove, and there would be bubbles. And that's where I was catching all my fish, was when I'd see those bubble trails. So as time went along, I just played around with it. And anymore, whenever I'm not getting bubbles, I just put it down, and I go to a subsurface bait, like that -1 that I show you in my other videos, a rattle trap, big Cinco, that follow-up bait. That's a great one, or again, a spinner bait. Okay, guys, and also, you know, the two buzz baits I do use, the Crocagator and the Jacob Wheeler Finesse buzz bait. I'm stepping out of my elements. Gerald Swindle had came out with this Buckeye, this G Buzz. I was looking at them. They got them on the shelf now. I was looking at them. I thought, that sounds legit. I mean, it looks legit. I've got the finesse one, right here. It's a 3/8, so it's heavier than a Jacob Wheeler, but it's got the same size of buzzbait blade on it. Um, this little bend in it. This is something the old timers back in the days used to put. They used to put the bend in the wire. It seemed like it got the bait underneath the surface a little more instead of riding up high. It just got it down just a little bit more, so it would be more, like more of a visual thing for them. But I am going to go out. I'm going to give these G Buzz a try. This is a half ounce, and the half ounce has got the regular size blade on it. But I'm liking this little finesse one. It's 3/8 finesse buzz bait. I mean, you never know. I might like it over my accent buzz baits. But anyhow, I'm going to give those two a try. Again, we've went over the reason I use the Z-Crawl on my finesse buzz baits. Like this little finesse buzz bait, I'm using the Z-Crawl Junior on these. Anything with my smaller baits, I'm downsizing. Obviously, that's that black flash. And another thing is, there's one thing I hear people talk about colors. Like, oh, you've got to have this certain color. You got to the color that works. And here's the key: the color, the one color of buzzbait that works all the time is the buzzbait that you're throwing. Whatever you have confidence in. Me, my confidence is in a black one or a white one. I don't get too crazy. This one's got that little silver flash in it, but I don't think a bass is really going to run up to a buzzbait and look at it and say, oh, it doesn't have so many different colors of flake in it. Oh, that's not the color I want. He's a opportunist. He's going to eat whenever he gets the opportunity. He sees easy prey, he's going to eat it. So again, don't get too caught up chasing colors down and all that. That's crazy. I think a lot of baits are made to catch the fishermen, not so much the fish. Okay. Also, when you put that Z-Crawl on there, overdose. Go too much. Use too much glue, super glue when you slide it up there. Put the super glue. Load it up. I mean, because there's nothing worse than getting out there and having to fight a trailer that keeps sliding down on your bait all day long. Overdo it with the super glue. Okay, let's get into the rod setups. And the first one I'm going to talk about is fluorocarbon. Okay, a lot of guys are like, fluorocarbon sinks, and it does sink. But the thing is, it does work. Matter of fact, Gerald Swindle made a video several years ago about that's all he does. He only throws a buzzbait on fluorocarbon. I went out and spent a lot of time working the fluorocarbon. And what I've learned about fluorocarbon is it does sink, but if let's say you make a 40 or 50 yard cast with a buzzbait, you are going to have to reel the dog snot out of that reel to get it to surface, because as soon as that line hits, it starts sinking. Now you're trying to get the line up along with the buzzbait. So it didn't work out good for me whenever I was trying to make those long casts. Now, if I'm making short casts to the bank, say 20 yards, 25 yards, the fluorocarbon works awesome. There's a lot of times as co-anglers, we can't bring 20 rods with us, so we have the perfect setup for every bait. So if you get down to where you have to use your rod, it's got fluorocarbon on it. You can do it, but the setup you want on your fluorocarbon rod. Okay, this is that Falcon Lowrider. This is that all-around rod I keep talking about. It's a 7-foot medium heavy, but it's a little stiffer in the backbone right here than most your medium heavy rods. It's got a great tip on it that allows you to cast it and all. But the reason I want more backbone in my in this rod when I'm throwing fluorocarbon with my buzzbait, it allows me to take up the stretch that's in that line. I'm getting more pressure into that fish during a hook set. If I went out with a rod that's got more of a parabolic bend in the back and all, I'm just not going to have the hookup ratio or success that I would with this particular rod right here. So remember, if you're throwing fluorocarbon, get a rod that's got a little more stiffness in the back. A really good spinnerbait rod will have that. Also on the reel setup, and this is with both my rods, I use an 8-to-5 gear ratio. I will drop down to a 7-to-5 gear ratio, but if I can, I'm going with the fastest I can. uh, get away with. Other videos will tell you they use, matter of fact, Gerald Swindle on that video, he said that he uses 6/8 to 1. You don't want to get too fast. You don't get too crazy with it. I'm not in the market to be out there working my tail end off, working the bait all day long. I like this 8 to 5 to 1 because I can control the speed of it. I'm not having to sit there and overwork myself all day, and get to the end of the day, you're just fatigued and you're tired. And really just don't even want to be there anymore after you're so tired. All right, my next setup. This is my braid setup. Again, I've talked about this Buku Flex. It's made by Falcon. It's a 7 foot. I know in my other videos, I talked about using a 6/6 rod for my walk-in baits and all. I always use a 6/6 for my walk-in baits, but with my buzz baits, I want a longer rod. This rod right here, this is whenever I'm making those bomb casts. I'm casting out 50, 60 yards across the flat. The braid allows me to, on my hookups, it allows me, I have contact with that bait all the time. And when I'm reeling it, I'm aiming this rod more at the buzz bait. I'm not up here at like the 10 o'clock position where I'm having to, get the fluorocarbon up keep it out of the water from sinking. I'm holding the rod straight at the bait, and I'm reeling it with an 8 to 5 gear ratio. And whenever one hits it, I just lean into them. I don't have to crank into them. I just lean into them, and that hook goes in. This rod here, it's got more of that parabolic feel down through here, and I like this rod for the buzz baits. This is probably my favorite setup for my buzz bait rods, and I have used them all. Again, I use that Suffix at 832. I use 50-pound tests. I do not use the 40s or the 30s. It seems like the 50-pound test casts so much better. And if you drop down a line size, it seems like that braid will actually start sucking down inside of your spool on like hook sets, or say you get hung up and you're trying to pull away from it. Again, 7 foot Buku Flex for my braided line on my buzz baits. Another thing is, guys, I just thought about this. Whenever you get a buzz bait right out of the package, absolutely do not go tournament fishing with it. You want to take these things to a pond or a swimming pool, and what you want to do, and a lot of guys like these baits running to the side, left or right. As a co-angler, you never know if you're casting from the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the boat. You don't know how that bait's going to come in. So I always tune my baits where they're coming straight back to me. If I want them running to the side, I can take my rod and finagle that bait to go to the left or go to the right. If I need it to go next to a boat dock slip or a piece of structure in the water. Go out and tune your buzz baits. It's easy. Just bend them one way or the other, and they'll run that way or the other way. But anyhow, guys, I hope this is it. If you have any more questions, please ask me in the comments. And I hope this works out, guys. Anyhow, have fun. Check me out. Go back and look at my other videos and like, subscribe. See y'all next time.